Good afternoon. This is Dr. Bill Wyatt again with the American Orthodontic Society, and I'm going to try to talk to you some this afternoon about the Mitchell Appliance. And you wonder what the Mitchell Appliance is. Well, I taught for a few years with a Dr. Dave Mitchell, who was head of the department at Atlanta, Georgia, at the orthodontic school there. And he and I went around and given seminars, and he finally went back into Atlanta, and I made this appliance, and I just wanted to dedicate it to Dr. Dave Mitchell, who practiced in Atlanta and also was head of the department at Emory University for about 17 years. And this appliance is something that you can use to encourage your patients to wear elastics. And you have to have them wear elastics. Sometimes in some situations, if they don't, you don't get anywhere with it. So let's go in and see really what this is and how it works. And you put it on, and the person leaves the elastics off, and his teeth get sore right up here in the front part of the mouth. They get sore. So anyway, let's get on with this. The first slide here, I'm going to have to go back over to my numbers and get my little pen going. And here is the appliance on a typodont now, and what you have to work the case up till you get everything where you can put a rectangular wire in. And we use 018 slots. You could use brackets here. See, these are weighing brackets. These right here, kind of like this, and then your arch wire goes through the center like that. And these weighing, you can bend them up or down and rotate the tooth with them. And I like them now. These are big wide teeth, so we got just twin brackets on there. All the rest of these are Lewis or Lang brackets that have these rotating little wings on them, and they do a pretty good job of rotating the teeth. The bracket is, say your tooth surface is something like this, and this bracket will be sitting in here and have the depth of the bracket, and you have these little wings come out like that, and your arch wire runs right across here, and it will be in your bracket. Your bracket comes all the way up on the arch wire. And now if you want this tooth to rotate, you can bend this little wing up like this, and it'll touch this, not that far, but it'll hit the arch wire and bend it up this way, and it'll push on the tooth and make it turn in that direction. So this is a good bracket, and you can do most anything you want to with it. You don't have to have any super duper brackets. You can take something like that and do just nearly anything anybody can do with a bracket. Now I'm going to go on to another deal. Now, you have to work the case up until you can get a rectangular wire in the 4 front teeth, and then you come in and build one, and you come up above your teeth, and you go all the way to the back teeth back here. We'll show you that on the next slide. I didn't cut this off too short. This should go on back here, and then you can bend it in with an optical plier, which is what we call a double optical plier. And I think you could probably see this if I put it up here. It has 2 sides to it. You put it on the end of a wire and press it together, and it'll bend that end of the wire up. Or if you're doing something like uprighting a molar, and you put this in and you bring this up and hook it behind something, and you want this molar you want to put more pressure on it, you can take this optical plier, this double optical plier, and you put the round part down here, and then you've got the cupped part up here, and you mash that, and it'll put a bend in that wire. If this was just going out straight and you pressed on it, you can make this wire go down this way or even further than that, and that puts a lot more pressure on this tooth going down, and then a lot more on this tooth setting it up. So if you're setting up this, what I'm going into here, I didn't intend to cover with uprighting teeth, but it's the Mitchell Appliance. Now, we get this lined up here, and you can put a rectangular wire in these brackets. Then we come up like this, and then run the wire over the teeth. It doesn't touch anything, and goes through your auxiliary deal. You take the double optical plier and bend the end in just a little bit like that. And now we'll press this. We run the spring on here before you put that in. Just run a piece of open coil spring. It's just, you can buy it in spools. It's open, and the spring is an 036 lumen on it, just like 036 lumen. In other words, it's 36 thousandths in that direction, and the wire itself is just 10 thousandths. So it's a small wire in the spring, but it's stout little thing. And now we're going to take something that pushes back and so much pressure on it like that. And this gets to sounding like it's really complicated, but you do it and take these instructions, and you can almost make a person wear elastics. Now we take a Dontrix gauge. Well, I'm going to show you first. We get these lock nuts from Rocky Mountain Orthodontics right here, and these lock nuts, you screw them down on this wire, and you can get them. I think they probably charge you 10 prices for them now, but you don't wear them out. And if you want to save them and we'll sterilize them and use them to lock the wire on another one, you can do that also. The lock nut is just a plain nut like this, and it has a gap in it, and you can slide it over your arch wire, and this thing here screws in, and it would screw. You'd have it out here, slip it over the wire, and then you put your wrench in this. This is an optical plier. You have a little hexagonal wrench that goes in there, and you tighten that down, and you can put a lot of force on this, and you can, if it's a square wire, it really works. It mashes that corner of the wire down in there, and it won't slip on that tooth. You put it on, then it'll stay. You can take it off and change it any way you want to. Now let's go on to another. Here is the lock nut, and this is an Allen wrench that you can buy from them, or you can go to a hardware store and buy a tiny Allen wrench, and it works the same way on the size of the opening in the screw here. And you put that Allen wrench on there, and this one you get with them, you can twist that Allen wrench, just tighten it up, and you can tighten that down on your arch wire tight enough that wire won't slip at all. You can just put it all you want to. So this is what we call this is a Rocky Mountain lock wrench. All it is an Allen wrench, and it's a certain size, and you can buy them at a hardware store too if you don't want to do that. There's a lot less money too. All right, here we are with this Allen wrench into the lock nut. Now they come about 5 of them on a stick of arch wire, and you just reach in and unscrew it, and it'll stay on this Allen wrench, and you can take it over and drop it on the arch wire. I've got to get back now to my arch wire. So there's this lock nut, and you can order this from Rocky Mountain. They'll be happy to sell you that and the Allen wrench. Now, everybody needs to own something like this. This is a Doctrix gauge. This is what we measure. I don't know whether you can see this or not, but I'm going to put that thing right up here close. And this is something that measures pressure. And it's got a bunch of little circles on it. You can see them on the deal here. And when you press it down into that, press it down to where it goes to that particular deal. In fact, when you're out like this, that's 16 of these, and there's an ounce, and you'll have 16 ounces of force on this when you put it in like that. In other words, you can measure a whole pound of force on the two. Pushing it or pulling it. You can pull it out like that and measure how much force you got on the elastic, or you can push this spring down and then put it down. Now, like we push this down, and there's 4 ounces, and then there'll be a double deal come up on the handle of it right here, and that's 4 ounces to this place. If I had pushed this over, this was up to here, that would be a pound of force on this spring. Now this spring probably wouldn't, you could put a pound of force on it, I guess, if you really wanted to, but you don't need that much force. So we've got a pound minus 5 ounces. And then you got 16 ounces a pound, so this is 11 ounces of force is on this spring right here. And it went from this point, let's see, go back here, and we put it on there and put 16, instead of 16 ounces, we only put 11 ounces of force on that spring. And then we locked this lock nut, you see right here, we locked it on behind that spring. So we've got, say, from here to here, we have 11 ounces of the ounces of force on it, and we lock it down at that. Now this is pushing back in this direction with 11 ounces, and it's pushing the arch wire and this nut forward with 11 ounces. It'll always be the same. So when you hook this thing up, you put 11 ounces over here, and then on the other side of the mouth you put 11 ounces, and now you've got 22 ounces of force pushing against your 4 front teeth up here. Now I don't want to lose you here now. So we have 22 ounces of force on there. That's over a pound. That's maybe too much. You could reduce this down probably half that much if you want to, and you can do it all with a Doctrix gauge and a little Allen wrench that adjusts this thing. You can let off on it to whatever you want, and it'll give you that much, and you put it up 1 week and you have them back in, say, 2 weeks or 3 weeks. But when you really put one of these in somebody's mouth, you ought to see them more often. Now here, while we're at this point, these are the little wings that you put on here. They come up and touch the arch wire here. Now if you bend one of these down, this is going to rotate in this direction. If you bend it up, it pushes it in the other direction. And so you can regulate the rotation of each tooth with these little winged brackets, and it's a single bracket right here. Now I use 018 brackets. There's no need to have a big 022 bracket here, and we use smaller arch wires to do everything. And if we want to do some real big, heavy expansion, we use this 036 or an 040 round wire. And the students that we had over the years got to calling it the Big Daddy arch wire, and that's what it is. It'll expand during anything you put it on, but you want to watch and keep a real close watch on it. You could have the cheeks sticking out, the teeth sticking your cheeks out like this. If somebody ran off for 4, 5, or 6 months and didn't come back, their teeth would be out there. So you have to be careful hooking it up to people like that. All right, this spring now, you're with me, we've got 11 ounces of force pushing this way and 11 ounces pushing this way. And then we come out on the front of this. Here we go. Now we're going to push this down till we get that 11 ounces and tighten that screw down. Right there, we're tightening it down. And we go back at the end of the arch wire, and the arch wire is running here, and we cup it in like that. So if the patient takes the rubber band off here that he's wearing on here, this thing won't go flying out across the room. It'll come up to this point, so it'll just move the arch wire out here somewhere. So that's the way we control that. But we'll put a lot of force on these teeth, but I wouldn't recommend 11. Say start off with maybe 5 or 6 ounces of force on each side. That'll give you 12 ounces, and that ought to move most anything there that you want to do. So now we've got that lined up. So if you turn this thing loose back here at the back, it'll push this wire out with 22 ounces of force. If you've got 11 over here and 11 over here, and it'll be pushing it forward. Now it's tied to only these 4 teeth, and they're laced together, and you pull that back in there and put it on there, and you've got 22 ounces of force on 4 teeth right there. Now, if you come back, now we have to put the elastic on here, and we get an elastic that's got 2 ounces more than your spring. And so you want an ounce with 13 or 14 ounces of force on your elastic. And let me go back and find a picture here that's got the elastic in it. Now that's hooked up and got the 22 ounces of force pushing this forward. We take an elastic, hook it up back here, and we pull it out to where you're going to hook it to the arch wire, hooking it back here, and you measure how much force you got on it. You can't see it out here, but you've got this Doctrix gauge now that we're pulling on this side till we have, when we pull it out there, we've got 11, but we want 2 more, so they'd say 13 ounces of force on the rubber band. So the rubber band has 2 more ounces of force than the spring has. Now when the person is wearing the rubber band, they only feel 2 ounces of force pulling this back. The other part is canceled out by the person that's being pulling these teeth forward, and they wear a lip bumper down here on the bottom. And you adjust your lip bumper so it's just barely out in front of the teeth and the tissue. It doesn't touch it at all. And that takes the load, and the lips push against the lip bumper, and it pushes back on this as the elastic is pulling forward on it. But when you hook this thing up, it is amazing what it will do now. All right, let's go here. There we go. That's nothing new on that one. All right, here we are with this hooked up. The elastic has about 13 ounces of force on both sides over here. So the elastic really has about 23 ounces of I take that back. It'll have about 26 ounces of force on it. And that cancels this force out, but you have 2 ounces more going back with this. And when you hook somebody up in this, you've only got 2 ounces bringing this back. But this is pulling this forward, and this is going back. And you better see the person every week or so, very close, because you come back, you will take a bad class 2 case, and you can hook it up with that. And if they don't wear the elastic, their front teeth will be sticking out. I mean, they'll go out and they'll hurt. And I did this on I was straightening a young man's teeth who was an orphan in an orphanage there with the Church of Christ. And I was having no luck at all. The guy just wouldn't wear the elastics. And he was a good kid, but he just flat wouldn't wear them. So I told him it was costing me half the price of orthodontic case to have this guy in braces and him not do anything. And I was about to take him out of this, and a friend of his and mine too, I'd done his orthodontic work, said, Dr. Wyatt, if you'll just keep him in the braces a little longer, I will see to it that he wears these elastics and everything. So I said, okay, we'll go ahead. So I put this Mitchell Appliance on that kid. And he, in 2 months' time, we had the class 2 corrected in there. And I'm not pulling your leg. It just took 2 months to do it. And we'd been working a year nearly to get that pushed back. But in 2 months' time, we had him back, and we took this and finished him up with just regular stuff. And when I got to know him a little better, he said, well, Dr. Wyatt says, I would take that rubber band off so I could eat dinner or something. And before I got my elastics back on again, my teeth would start hurting up here, and so I had to put this elastic back. So if you have somebody that will not wear elastics, you put this on them. If they don't wear them now, your teeth are going to go swinging out forward with that, and you'll have to just take it off. And I had one kid that still didn't do it, so you had to just take it off and give up on the case. I mean, unless you just put the guy to sleep or tied some springs on it or something like that. But you hook this up, and it will doggone sure correct a class 2. If they wear that thing, which they have to wear it, or it'll mess the front teeth will stick out. So anyway, this is what I dedicated this to Dr. Mitchell, who worked with me for a few years there while he was, after he retired from the head of the department there at Emory. He worked with me, and they gave me a pretty hard time for doing that, so I dedicated this appliance to him. And you've got a lip bumper down on the bottom, and as you're pulling this forward, the lip is, if you got somebody swallowing wrong, pushing back with the lip knocks some of that out, pushes it back, but the end result will be you'll bring the upper teeth back into a class 1 relationship, before you even can think of it almost. And this, for some reason or other, I guess it seems complicated as all get out. So people just have not taken on to it. But if you use something like this, it's got a lip bumper, and then this archway on the upper is set to push on the forefront tee. You have to get the case lined up to where you put a rectangular wire in it before you use it. And then there we're hooked up with the elastic. And if you leave it on very long, you'll make a class 3 person out of them. And you take a real big class 2 and you can make it into a class 3 with this. So if you are having trouble getting somebody to wear elastics, take this thing and study it. I've got a video on it on a person that wore it just a short time and didn't come back when they were supposed to, and they came in, they were a 1/4 inch class 2. She came back with a little bit of a class 3, and I just took it off and put an appliance, soft wire in there, and it jumped back to class 1 in just a week or two. So anyway, this thing works, and I'd like for people to try it, and if they don't, mind it, you've got to keep your eye on it. You don't just forget about it. Now, if you're doing class 2 and you're having a hard time with somebody and they're locked in class 2 where the teeth fit down into these little Louis like this, you know, and the bottom one is coming up in here, and it seems like you can't get them to go back this notch. It's hard. You have to climb up a hill, and then once they get there, it'll just jump over to class 1. But you can take a little strip of light cured composite or just acrylic, etch these teeth, put that little strip in there, let them close to a little bit, and then you grind the thing out to where you've got just the contact points touching here, and there is no interdigitation effect on that. In fact, you can take somebody and back their maxilla up with a headgear or elastic, and if you got deep interlocking cusps, you can push against the lower arch so bad that I was causing a temporomandibular joint problem, and some bright person that was lectured said, well, orthodontics caused TMJ problem. It wasn't orthodontics. It was the guy doing it. He was pushing the upper teeth back, and that made the lower teeth go back because of the interdigitation. You put a little strip of this acrylic, and that makes class 2 correction much, much easier. So that's just a little pearl you can stick in there with the rest of it. Thank you for watching. And here, this is the Mitchell Appliance. And I want to tell you, it works, and don't put it on somebody and go off and leave them. So thanks for watching. And this thing works, and if you'll try it, don't if you're just hooking them up again, see this person every week. See, till you get there. And if they wear it, this arch will go back up here, and this it'll amaze you how quick it'll go back, and you can work on it for months. It'll push it uphill over cusps even. So I'm going to hang up and say goodbye, and thanks for watching. And join our group, subscribe to it. We'd like to have you. And if you want to, we're trying to get our American Orthodontic Society making these ortho programs going around all over the country and the world as far as that's concerned. And I thank you for watching now. I'm going to hang up.